Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but this race weekend at Atlanta was actually pretty interesting. And not gonna lie, I know a lot of people are just look at this race and said, "Fine, let's just get this over with, so we can go over to the Bristol Dirt Race because that's the race that has people like the most hyped to do it." But yeah, uh, at this point, people are just looking forward to the Bristol Dirt Race, and they just overlook Atlanta and say 1.5 mile track that eats up tires. It's one of my favorite racetracks for that reason. One of my favorite intermediate tracks, certainly on the schedule. Not only that, but also because of its rich history. But we'll get into that in just a moment. For now, we're gonna look at each of the three races because something interesting and rather you could say controversial happened in each of the three races that happened in Atlanta. So let's just get right into it. Starting off with the Truck Series race. Of course, the big storyline once again here was Kyle Busch not necessarily dominating, even though unlike at Las Vegas, he actually dominated this race and won. But it's the parts where he didn't dominate or where he wasn't leading that were actually controversial because near the end of stage 1 and stage 2, Kyle Busch and John Hunter Nemechek were battling. I wouldn't say side by side, but John Hunter Nemechek was just right behind him. He was like within 2-3 tenths of a second behind him. And with 2 laps to go to end the stage, 2 laps to go, Kyle Busch just lets John Hunter Nemechek by so he can grab the stage win and the playoff point. And now people are saying, "Oh, Kyle, oh, come on, Kyle Busch is not playing fair. 100% rule. You're laying over to let your teammate get the stage win. Play fair." Well, that's actually funny because those are the same people that say that Kyle Busch shouldn't be running these races because he steals playoff points from the series regulars. What is Kyle Busch doing here? He is letting one of the series regulars get a much valuable playoff point. Now, of course, a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, it's his driver," but it's still a series regular. John Hunter Nemechek is a series regular and he needs the points more than Kyle Busch needs them. Now, of course, Kyle Busch is of course fighting to put that 51 car in the owners championship. So he is fighting for something, but what he is fighting for and his race is not as meaningful as John Hunter Nemechek's because John Hunter Nemechek is fighting for the drivers championship. Like, the drivers championship is more interesting than the owners championship. Like, who cares who wins the owners championship? So yeah, Kyle Busch laid over to let John Hunter Nemechek by, caused a lot of controversy. It's just okay to me because once again, this is exactly like the Las Vegas situation where if NASCAR is not going to penalize you, Kyle Busch knows perfectly that NASCAR won't penalize him because NASCAR is so inconsistent with their ruling in situations like this. So of course Kyle Busch is going to find loopholes and exploits and just in given situations like he did at Las Vegas with him spinning out intentionally, and then at Atlanta, as long as you do it and then you don't confess to doing it, you're gonna be fine. As long as you don't pull a Bubba Wallace at Texas 2019 and you just confess that he did it just to prove a point. Yeah, as long as you don't do that, you're pretty much in the clear. It's not like NASCAR would just launch an investigation, or they would just waste their time in there because at the end of the day, if the guy doesn't, if they can prove that the guy did it, if they can squeeze a confession out of the guy, then they would have just ended up wasting their time. So I don't think they're going to be any penalties handed out. Whether he did it on purpose or not, that's for you to, I'll leave that up to you. Even if he did that on purpose, honestly though, come on. It's not a big deal. He was actually hoping his teammate and the guy that he's driving one of his trucks. He's putting his trucks in a better. He's putting himself in a better position to win not only the owners' championship but also the drivers' championship with John Hunter Nemechek. So you can't just really get mad at him for that. Honestly, it's not a big deal. So now let's go to the moving on to the Xfinity race. Um, there were actually two main storylines here. Of course, it was the first one being uh, just Josh Berry spinning out. There was an incident late in the race, I believe. Fairly late in the race, I believe. That it was like 30 to go. Um, Josh Berry, he spun out. He saved it, but then for some reason he decided to go into the grass, knowing perfectly what happens when you drive over the grass with these big ass splitters. Josh Berry still did that, and his car just got obliterated. He just flew immediately. And of course, this once again reignites the splitter, remove splitter or replace the grass with turf argument, and that has had people like that people have had for the past 2 to 3 years, ever since Charlotte was reconfigured into the Charlotte Roval and they added and replaced the grass with turf. I feel this argument has gained more traction, and to be honest, I was initially on the side of they should replace the grass with turf, but now after thinking about it, looking at the split, now after thinking about it, why should NASCAR bother wasting that much money to replace grass with turf on all of their tracks when the real culprit, is the splitter? It's like a design flaw. Why should you replace the grass because of one design flaw in those cars? And this is not only limited to just the Xfinity cars. The trucks and the Cup cars also have the same problem. But of course, the main storyline here is the Xfinity race because it happened in that race. But yeah, honestly, I don't want to be mean to Josh Berry because I kind of like the guy, but honestly, that was really stupid of him. If you know that the grass is going to destroy your car, then why just drive over it? Why just take the risk? Should have just gone to pit road. The caution was going to come out anyways. The caution had been out for a while, I think. I don't know really, but I'm recording this the day after the race is over, and I'm recording this on a Sunday night, so my memory about the Xfinity race yesterday is a bit fuzzy about that, but I'm gonna bet that the caution was already out when just before Josh Berry went into the grass. Anyways, that wasn't the big storyline though. The big storyline here was the fight between Daniel Hemric and Noah Gragson, because midway through the race during a caution, I believe it was in stage 3. Yeah, they were making pit stops. And Noah Gragson, apparently Daniel Hemric just couldn't get himself properly in his pit stall, the pit stall in front of him, which was Gragson, he was actually obstructing Gragson, and then when Gragson got into his pit stall, it looked like he backed on Hemric on purpose. Now, Gragson said, of course, that he had nowhere to go, so he was trying to... So, of course, he said that him hitting Hemric was actually necessary for him to straighten the car and for him to get pit road service. Of course, that wouldn't have been a problem if it wasn't for the fact that there was a crew member near the front of Hemric's car, and that could have ended pretty ugly. And of course, this once again, Gragson being the polarizing driver that he is, this of course reignited the conversation of a lot of fans defending Gragson, saying that it's not a big deal because no one got injured, and of course the haters of Noah Gragson, who are saying that what he did was pretty reckless, that he could have found another way to he could have found another way to straighten the car because if you see the replay, there was pretty much enough room in front of him to straighten the car. So he could have just, instead of backing off, he could have just gone forward and just straightened the car. My take on this, honestly, I'm on Team Daniel Hemric. I'm not gonna hold this against Gragson much, but I'm gonna say this: what Gragson did was pretty reckless. What Gragson did was honestly pretty reckless. I'm not gonna lie. But so with that being said, what's my whole take on this? Where do I stand in regards to this whole Daniel Hemric Noah Gragson situation? Well, I'm kind of right in the middle, but I'm leaning more towards Daniel Hemric's side. Because did Noah Gragson do it on purpose? No, he didn't do it on purpose. It's pretty... He has made his intentions pretty clear. Daniel Hemric might say that, of course, there's some video that maybe shows that maybe Gragson was just flipping off. Show Gragson kind of flipping off Daniel Hemric, but that evidence, I didn't quite see it. Some people are gonna see it clearly, and some people are not. Once again, I'm gonna leave that up to debate. But did Gragson do it on purpose? In my opinion, no, because what would he gain? If you guys remember, Gragson was actually involved in an incident earlier in the race. So what would he gain? What could he possibly gain from just further damaging his car on pit road? So did he do it on purpose? No, but it was pretty reckless, and it compromised the safety of Daniel Hemric's crew members. A lot of people are calling for Gragson to be penalized. He was actually sent to the hauler, but in the end, I don't think any penalties came out of that. He should be given a warning. He should be given a warning, and Dale Jr. needs to sit down and talk to him seriously, because even Dale Jr. Dale Jr. has been very critical of him in some broadcasts, on some NASCAR and NBC broadcasts last season. I saw Dale Jr. say bits about it. Of course, there's that infamous graphic floating around about Gragson being involved in like 12 of 17 incidents. On 12, been involved in incidents in 12 of the 17 Xfinity races in the first half of 2020. And this season, I read a stat that's kind of alarming as well. Gragson been involved in at least one incident in every race in 2021. Now, of course, to be fair to Gragson, because I'm gonna look at it from both ways, most of those incidents he has been involved in this season have been either mechanical or not his fault. Because let's be honest, Gragson has had an abysmal start to the season. The big one at Daytona, being involved in a crash at Daytona, just like half the field. Then he had a mechanical issue at the Daytona road course, so he wasn't able to. And this was early in the race, so he was pretty much out from the beginning of it. Then of course, David Starr, while leading at Homestead, he blew a tire. To this day, I don't know. And Gragson then went on a tirade accusing Starr of doing it on purpose. Yeah, that was not a good look for Gragson. Vegas pretty much has been the only good race for him. Phoenix, of course, then blowing an engine. And Atlanta, he was involved in this incident, not of his own doing. And he still came back to finish 4th. So I'm going to say this. Noah Gragson fans are right about their driver not doing it on purpose. However, they're also wrong about just blindly defending their driver. Just because no one was injured, it does not excuse Gragson from what he did. And I hate it when people said, "Oh, come on, nobody was injured. It's not a big deal." This is the excuse that Noah Gragson fans say when defending this stuff. You cannot defend this stuff. Sure, Noah Gragson didn't do it on purpose, but still, it was pretty reckless. You seriously can't be that blind from that stuff. So, anyways, that's my whole take on the Hemric and Gragson matter. And finally, we're gonna go to the cup race. We're gonna be covering the cup race. Pretty much. But at the start of the race, it was pretty much clear, set in stone, that the inside lane was gonna be king, with all of the tire wear and a lot of like tire marbles in the outside lane, and how the track eats up tires. Because Atlanta, it's a good track that eats up tires. When it comes to that, it's actually the most abrasive track right now on the schedule, the oldest surface, and because of that. However, it doesn't produce the kind of racing that Homestead does, where you can run both lanes. In this race, specifically in the Cup race, and this was actually kind of an overarching theme with both, with also the Xfinity and the truck race, was that the inside lane, if you were in the inside lane, you were pretty much set. If you kept the inside lane, you were pretty much set for just pulling away or just making a pass at this point. But of course, speaking of the surface at Atlanta, and there is an incident that actually I still very vividly remember, because I picked this guy to win. Kevin Harvick, during the competition caution, Kevin Harvick, who was running second, actually had to pit like one lap before the restart, because he suffered a flat tire while pacing under caution, like running on the pace car under caution. Harvick suffered a flat tire because of the surface of the Atlanta surface. And if this track eats up tires even when you are under caution, I love Atlanta. One of the reasons I love it is because of its abrasive and rough racing that eats up tires, and I believe that those rough conditions are the tracks that actually show who the best drivers are in terms of like tire management and just driver skill overall. But there comes a point in time where enough is enough, and I believe we could be seeing a repave of Atlanta Motor Speedway pretty soon. Now, of course, into the race overall, the race was pretty much dominated by Kyle Larson from start until like 8 laps to go, and we'll get into that. And of course, I have been throughout the race, after Larson just dominated stage 1 and stage 2 in convincing fashion. He was pulling away to like huge leads. I believe he had a 10-second lead at one point. I don't really know, but it was pretty close to that. He stayed in the 7-second to 8-second range, I'm pretty sure. And while I was watching this race, a pretty interesting question popped into my mind. Is Kyle Larson, should we consider Kyle Larson like a championship favorite? Because it's been what, 5 races into the season? Well, after this race it's been 6. But should we consider Kyle Larson a championship favorite? Because after all, he has been like the most consistent running driver, I believe, or one of the most consistent running drivers in the top 5 and top 10. Because when you think about it, he was running like in the top 10 in the Daytona 500, and he finished 10th despite just being involved in the big one on the last lap. Daytona Road Course, he was actually on pace for like a top 5 finish, but of course he crashed out late. Homestead, he ran top 5. That Homestead is just his wheelhouse pretty much. Vegas, we all know he won there. Phoenix, he had a fast car, but he was honestly his own worst enemy. Him spinning on pit road twice kind of undid him right there. And once again at Atlanta, I just feel like Kyle Larson is his own worst enemy, because with 8 laps to go, he got caught and passed by Ryan Blaney, and Larson tried to retake the lead, but his tires were shot. Like he just couldn't pass him, and Blaney just pulled away and won the race. So first of all, we have 6 winners in 6 different races. once again, it's kind of an unlikely winner. Okay, honestly, it's an unlikely winner because Ryan Blaney once again came out of nowhere to win this race. And not only that, but also Blaney is used to winning. We usually see Blaney winning at tracks like Talladega and the occasional Charlotte Roval win. And once again, this win is very similar to the win he got at Pocono, where he actually caught a guy who was on older tires, or in the case of Kyle Larson, used tires. Also, both guys were actually named Kyle. Kyle Busch in Pocono 2017, Kyle Larson in this race. It's kind of funny. But back to the point, Blaney caught Larson, whose tires were just pretty much shot, and he passed them, and he just pulled away to win. And once again, this created some controversy because just before Blaney was actually getting to Larson, it looked like Larson was kind of stuck trying to pass Joey Logano. And then once Blaney passed Kyle Larson and got clear and cleared himself of Logano, Keselowski, who was also another lap car, came behind Larson, and pretty much Logano and Keselowski, what happened, they just boxed Larson in, and Larson just couldn't do anything, and Blaney ended up winning the race. Now, to me, this was just an excellent display of teamwork, just using your teammates who have no longer have a chance to win this race. You're gonna be just having your teammates help you to just win the race. And now, of course, some people like it, some people don't like it. The perception of what Keselowski and Logano, especially Logano, did varies from person to person. But of course, people are gonna say that. But of course, this has people once again arguing because they're just accusing Joe Logano of once again blocking to help his teammate, and you might think it's for good reason because Logano has a history of blocking, whether it's for a teammate or not. But in this case, honestly, I don't really see why people are accusing Logano of doing that, or I don't really see why Logano is at fault for that, because as I said earlier, Kyle Larson's tires were shot. Larson had burned his tires out faster than Blaney did, trying to get by all those lap cars. By the time he got to Logano was able to draft off of him because he saw Larson struggling with his used tires. From there, Blaney got to him, he passed him, and then he eventually cleared Logano, and Larson eventually cleared himself of Logano as well. And this is where I say, and this is where my argument for why Joe Logano is not at fault is, because once Larson cleared himself of Logano, if Logano was really holding up Larson and Larson got clearing himself of Logano, then the logical thing, what would have happened? Larson would have just caught Blaney again and retaken the lead, but that didn't happen. Ryan Blaney, he kept pulling away. So what this tells me is that Kyle Larson's tires were used up. Like, Kyle Larson had used up his tires way faster than Blaney did, and because of that, he couldn't get by Logano, and Blaney eventually passed him. Blaney got to him and eventually passed him for the win. And Larson even said so himself in this interview that, yeah, it was pretty much the tires that pretty much were his undoing. And once again, this goes back to my main topic about whether I should consider Larson a championship favorite or not. Right now, I'm gonna say no, because once again, just like I said last week at Phoenix, Kyle Larson is his own worst enemy sometimes. He was caught speeding on pit road at Phoenix not once but twice, and now at Atlanta just before winning. And now at Atlanta, during the last long green flag run, when he's already good on fuel, where all he has to do is take care of his tires, he just ends up racing around lap cars a bit too hard, and he ends up burning his tires. He doesn't have anything towards the end, and Blaney ends up catching him and passing him. So I'm gonna say, even though Larson is like one of the top top three best cars, best looking drivers and teams of the season, because that 5 team has been really fast. At the end of the day, those occasional driver mistakes I feel are going to cost Larson in the long run if he doesn't do something about it. So that's honestly all I got about this whole thing. Was Logano wrong for what he did? In my opinion, no. Once again, this goes back to the 100% rule, because it felt like Logano for a moment was laying over for Blaney, but come on, it's just teamwork. It's just like what Kyle Busch did. And once again, this just go back to the fact that people are going to complain if it's Kyle Busch and Joe Logano, because those two guys are like the two most hated drivers, I feel like, in the NASCAR fan base, or the two most polarizing at least. But if a driver that everyone loves, like Chase Elliott, for example, did something like that, then everyone would turn a blind eye. The NASCAR fan base is just a mess sometimes. But yeah, that's all I got for today, and let's get hype for Bristol Dirt, y'all.